Hi, Kevin Coop here,
And Tom Furphy.
and this is the Innovation Conversation. Once again, we're recording this. This is so great. We seem to be in the same place at
We're
the same
spending
time a lot. It's
a
terrific.
lot of time.
Yeah, it's way too much time together. Anyway, so we're actually backstage in the green room. We're at the Retail Tomorrow Portland State University Retail Revolution Conference that has just taken place here in Portland. And so we thought we'd talk a little bit about some of the things we're hearing and how it applies to the news. And there's been a lot of conversation on stage about value and values, that consumers are connecting to retailer and brand values in a different way and to a greater way than ever before. And I think this is interesting because we know that Amazon has been getting some negative news coverage.
It's a shocker.
Well, yeah, right. It had to happen sometime. But because of things like people finding out that they are selling products on their site that have been sourced from factories in Asia where there are real problems, and where a lot of other companies like Walmart, Target have said we're not going to work with those factories anymore, and also they've gotten some bad press for selling expired food products. So the question is about responsibility. I mean, to what degree does Amazon have responsibility for these products? I know they like to say, hey, listen, they're on our marketplace, they're not our products, they're their products. So what kind of responsibility do you think they really have?
I can imagine, I know that has been the response to the press, but I cannot imagine that would be a value proposition that they would actually want to, convey to and state to their shopper that, yeah, we're not going to stand behind this stuff. It's just sitting out there. I mean, I think Amazon really is one of the things that Amazon strives to be is trusted,
right.
And so I think that their trust could absolutely get pretty eroded over time if they take a complete laissez-faire attitude toward these. I do think that it does behoove them to ultimately build some kind of oversight and audit capabilities and certification capabilities. Into these products and where and how they're sourced.
I mean, they've been around for almost 3 decades now,
Yeah.
right? I mean, in some ways, or what we're seeing is an evolution of customers, concerns, and maybe in this case, they actually do have to play catch up a little bit.
Yeah, I think you may be seeing some. I think that Amazon's value proposition originally was about massive selection at a good price, delivered conveniently, right? And that was plenty of value proposition to allow them to grow. And I think as they become a larger platform for an amount of households purchases, the requirement is deeper for what they need to deliver. So I think it's a combination of, yes, I do think actually that the consumers become much more discerning. And it's much more, values and transparency and whatnot is far more important than it used to be. And I think given that in Amazon's volume and that they really do strive to be trusted, it's definitely becoming more important.
I mean, the second step on the Amazon flywheel has always been customer experience.
Absolutely.
And customer experience now is being defined in different kinds of ways. And I just wonder, they can't continue, in my view, to just say, well, it's their problem, referring to their third-party, marketplace vendors. So what would you do? I mean, if you were there and
right.
you were, giving your recommendation to Jeff Bezos, what would you suggest they do? What are the steps they could take
right.
to become more trusted? And I don't think they have to do it overnight.
Right,
I mean,
absolutely.
They have to start the process.
Yeah. Well, I think for first-party retail, so where they're the retailer and they take it into their own inventory and they have a relationship with a vendor, I think in those cases you absolutely could make it be a part of the requirements of the vendor that they meet certain standards, right? And certainly you can't have factories that are, these types of factories that we're talking about in Asia and be okay. So I think that there's a requirement they can state. I think that the vendor should certify that they meet that, and that Amazon should have audit rights toward that. On the third-party marketplace, which is becoming more of the goods that are sold on Amazon, it's like 2/3 of the goods that are sold on Amazon, that is a little tougher to police. But they should build something toward that. So maybe it's where you have these requirements that a seller has to certify to, but again, that could be hollow.
I mean, do they have to maybe build a vetting mechanism?
I think that it would be expensive to do that, but just because it's expensive doesn't mean they shouldn't do it.
And they do have some money.
And they do, well, they do, yeah. They do. They've worked hard for it, and they're going to continue to work hard and deploy it in the right ways. But yeah, no, I think that there probably is some kind of vetting process. So maybe they either badge items that have been through a vetting process to highlight those as preferred, or maybe they, badge, or not badge, but note all items in the marketplace haven't yet been through this certification process. And as they go through the certification process, the kind of, not disclaimer language, but the language where this hasn't been vetted could be removed, or it could be at least be badged then as being vetted. So there probably is something they can do. You look at the number of sellers, millions of sellers, and hundreds of millions of products. It's a massive undertaking, so I don't think it can solely lie on Amazon, but I think between requirements that they can impose on folks selling on the platform, and then oversight and audit mechanisms that they can deploy or employ, I think that can close the gap quite a bit.
And they've certainly started the process with counterfeits. I mean, they are addressing that issue.
Yeah, it's a real issue, and they take it very seriously, and they've taken a hard line, and they have a bunch of machine learning around that, and they have a bunch of other ways that they can identify products for authenticity and for counterfeit, and they take a very hard line against those.
It's interesting though, because when you think about it, I mean, they've got so many mechanisms. If they wanted to say, if they wanted to create a special store of products that are made in America, let's say, they could do that pretty easily. I mean, they'd have to figure out the vetting process, but because they have the ability to kind of slice and dice their store any way they want to, that allows them to be more responsive to the consumer.
Absolutely. It's data that they can capture, right? As long as you can
it's got to be an
determine the
algorithm.
validity.
It's got to be an algorithm.
Right. Well, you can determine it's a data field that can be captured and can be cataloged, and then search can be rendered on that, and it can be displayed, and it's just really a matter of prioritizing.
Well,
doing that, but certainly could.
And it's interesting. I think they are going to have to they're going to have to make some decisions, it seems to me, about where are they going to have to kind of adjust their priority system, and maybe align it somewhat differently, because at the end of the day, the customer's priority system is being realigned, and they've got to kind of track with that, because to not track with it would be to give up the customer centricity that has always been their secret sauce.
They talk about how they obsess over customers, and based on that obsession, they continually tune their business model, and they work backward from that customer. So if that customer demands that, it's absolutely something they need to deliver on.
Anyway, that is this week's Innovation Conversation. I'm glad we're together in the same place. I don't know when the next time will be, but one thing I can guarantee you, and that's the Innovation Conversation will continue.